Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. Please recite the Surah Fatiha for Kullu Mu'min wa Nas. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal.
Oh, it's muted.
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. I want to start by offering condolences to Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And to our living Imam, Imam Mehdi Sahib was Zaman alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And to you, my community members, brothers and sisters in Islam. And to anybody else who's watching that is new to the community or stumbled on this video, I want to offer condolences because tonight is the 6th night of the month of Muharram. The 6th night is a significant night because the camp and the caravan of Imam Hussein was stranded in a foreign land, surrounded by soldiers, and were preparing for certain death and torture. And for that, my Lady of Light, my helper, the one who's going to intercede on my behalf in front of Allah, and my living Imam, Imam Mehdi Sahib was one of us. And for those watching, I offer my condolences. Before we begin, let's ask Allah, Ya Allah, please purify our intentions on this night. Please, even if our intentions aren't pure, give us the best benefit from these nights, whether or not they're in the way that we plan these nights to affect our life or not. Please help them have a great impact on our life, a significant impact on our life, and allow us to reap the highest benefits that we could get. First, by purifying our intentions, removing any arrogance, any pride, any jealousy, any entitlement, any pride for thinking that we're such great people that we're here and we're doing this. Remove any of that from any of the viewers, the presenters, anybody going to any masjid, anybody who's looking to gain nearness to Imam Hussein and to understand his mission and nearness to Allah on this night. Please purify our intentions and their intentions so we can do the best service to the son of your most perfect creation, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our creator, our master, our giver of everything, our protector, our friend, we're asking you on this day, and through these 10 days, as we do in our life, though we're undeserving, we're going to ask you for things. We're going to tell you our desires, our wishes. We're going to make plans in our mind, and we're going to expect you to execute. And Ya Allah, there's no doubt in my mind that all our wishes will be fulfilled. No doubt in my mind, because we're about to listen to Hadith Qissa, on which the Prophet Muhammad promises us that there's no wishers whose wishes are not fulfilled when they recite Hadith Qissa. Because we're going to listen to the story of Imam Hussein and hear about the martyrs of Karbala. We're going to shed tears for them. And because we know the value of those tears, we know that our wishes will get fulfilled. So before you fulfill our wishes, we ask that you fulfill the wishes of all of our community members, all of Kullu Mu'min and Mu'minat. Grant their wishes, forgive their sins, and then forgive our sins. And before you even listen to our prayers, before you consider to grant our prayers, please, on our behalf, on the house which is constantly raining blessings, on the house of Prophet Muhammad and the family of Prophet Muhammad, we ask that you increase the blessings, make it rain and shower blessings to the extent to where they ask you, Allah. We say, where are all these extra blessings coming from? And you will tell them that it came from the community that prayed together and prayed for you and prayed that Allah sends blessings and showers blessings on Prophet Muhammad and the family of Prophet Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. When these blessings are accepted by them and it is acknowledged by them that we are their lovers, and it is acknowledged by you confirmed by them, acknowledged by you that we are the lovers of those who you love. At that moment, Allah, is when we want you to listen to our du'as. At that moment is when we want you to decide what our share is in this world and in the hereafter. And at that moment, when it is confirmed that we are the lovers of those who you love, is when we want you to forgive our sins. Bar Muhammad, wa ala Muhammad sallallahu Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa tafajjal. A couple of quick announcements. Tomorrow is going to be tomorrow is Thursday, right? So, it's going to be the Mehndi of Janabi Qasim. On Friday, we'll have the Hajri of Hazrat Abbas, followed by Karbala Poetry Night. Karbala Poetry Night starts, we announced at 10:30, but most of the programs at whatever masjid everyone goes to, including al-Asr, ends at around 10:30. And so come after that. You know, the poetry program starts after 10:30. And so you have time to go, do the full program somewhere else and then come. The program is open for anybody of all ages, men and women. It's a new thing we're trying out about Poetry Night. So we're really excited about people joining and sharing our poetry and seeing showing our love for the Allah Bayt. So please join us on Friday night for Hajri and for Karbala Poetry Night. On Monday is the day of Ashura. Sunday morning. First announcement is we're doing a majlis at the Wadi al-Salam Laverne Cemetery starting at 11 a.m. We're going to start at 11 a.m. so we could get done before Zohar Namaz. And so please join us there. Again, as we always do, I'll announce our schedule for there and for tonight because it's the same schedule. We're going to start as we should start everything with Hadith Qissa. After Hadith Qissa, after we surround the gathering with angels that are praying for our forgiveness and praying that Allah grant our wishes. After the gathering is surrounded by angels, then we will have Marcia, followed by we've been doing a Socratic discussion about Imamat. We're going to continue with that, followed by Noha, and then Ziyarat and Dua. So with the loud salawat, let's please welcome Brother Mehed, who's going to recite Hadith Qissa for us. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. An Jabir ibn Abdullahi Ansari annahu qala an Fatima az-Zahra alayhi salam bint Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi qala sami'tu Fatimata annaha qalat dakhala alayya abi Rasulillahi fi ba'd al-ayyam faqala assalamu alayki ya Fatimatu فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أريدك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيتني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه هو البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه السلام عليك يا من اختار الله وتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو ما ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء فقال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بنتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وهامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا
صل على محمد وآل محمد
فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مدية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبتي هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء فقال أمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء فقال عز وجل لا هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مدية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذنوا لي يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفكروا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيهم جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وكشف وفرج الله هما ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غما ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Now we're going to do Marcia by Asia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya on, Ya Muhammad, Ya on, Ya Muhammad. You guys are too young to do jihad, but it was accepted. You guys are such good fighters, you had to be separated. There were thousands of villains and only two of you, but you killed so many they didn't know what to do. Your teacher, Hazrat the Boss, watched you fight the enemies of Islam. 1 year apart, the two brothers fought to help our third Imam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Ya on, Ya Muhammad, Ya on, Ya Muhammad. When your mother, Bibi Fatima, went to claim the heads, there was no one to claim Hussein, so she took his instead. You guys are the flesh and the blood of Ali ibn Abu Talib and Prophet Muhammad's son, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He was the king of martyrs in Islam. Your guys' grandfather is Jafar Tayyar. That's how you have so much strength in your blood. May Allah send blessings on our living mom, Imam Mehdi Saib Usman alayhi salam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. राय खुशनुदी इमाम ज़माना बुलंदतर सलावत मा सल्ला अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद व अजल फर्ज. करबल की कहानी जब कोई भी सुनाएगा, करबल की कहानी जब कोई भी सुनाएगा, दिल वालों की आँखों से एक दरिया बहाएगा. वो काफिला सरवर का जो शान से निकला था, सुगरा को खबर क्या थी ना लौट के आएगा. ज़हरा ज़हरा पुरसानो 72 का, ज़हरा ज़हरा पुरसानो 72 का टूटी है कमर शह की घबराना मगर अकबर टूटी है कमर शह की घबराना मगर अकबर फर्जंदे नबी तेरी मैयत को उठाएगा ज़हरा ज़हरा अकबर का भी पुरसा लो ज़हरा ज़हरा अकबर का भी पुरसा लो पामाल हुआ कासिम जब घोड़ों की टापों से पामाल हुआ कासिम जब घोड़ों की टापों से किस तरह चचा तेरी मैयत को उठाएगा ज़हरा ज़हरा कासिम का भी पुरसा लो ज़हरा ज़हरा कासिम का भी पुरसा लो था हाथों के कटने का कुछ गम न दिलावर को था हाथों के खटने का कुछ गम न दिलावर को सैदानियों का पर्दा अब कौन बचाएगा ज़हरा ज़हरा अब्बास का पुरसानो ज़हरा ज़हरा अब्बास का पुरसानो सरवर ने उठाए थे सब साथियों के लाशें सरवर ने उठाए थे सब साथियों के लाशें शब्बीर तेरा लाशा अब कौन उठाएगा ज़हरा ज़हरा शब्बीर का पुरसानो ज़हरा ज़हरा शब्बीर का पुरसानो सलावत अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद व अज्जिल फरजहुम
For Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali
Muhammad
Muhammad
wajil farjil. Please recite Surah Fatiha for Kul Mu'min and Mu'minat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajil farjil. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala wajil farjil. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Bariki wa diniyak. Idina talat musik. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله احد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا احد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله احد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا احد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله احد say Allah is one Allah الصمد Allah is unique لم يلد ولم يولد he does not beget nor is he begotten ولم يكن له كفوا احد there is nothing like him اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجل اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجل Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah. All praise be to Allah because anytime we try to praise anything but you, Allah, Our praise falls short because you are the creator of all things. You are the fashioner of all things. You are the designer of all things. And you design things, and you gave each and everything guidance on how it's supposed to conduct itself, on how it's supposed to live its life, the things that it's supposed to value, the things it's supposed to strive for, the things it's supposed to strive to. So at the end of time, nobody can say that you are not just, for you're the most just, Allah. You're the most just, and that's why not a single leaf quivers in the wind without your might and without your power, without your knowledge, without your instruction, and without your justice. Ya Allah, we confess and we are certain of your oneness, and we are certain of your justice. Ya Allah, please bring us closer to our Imam. Bring us closer to our Imam so we could understand the importance of Imamat. And so we could understand how to follow the message of your prophethood to give us a successful and a akhirat that we're not, khayamat that we're not scared of. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafarju. See, Allah answers all of our prayers. Allah answers all of our prayers. And one of the means of answering our prayers, things that it's not just things that we ask for. Your prayers aren't just things that we ask for, they're also things that we need, things that our body craves, right? Our body can ask for health when we don't realize we're unhealthy. And even when our body makes the dua for health, when our mind doesn't realize that we're sick, will Allah reach out and help us. Sometimes we're sick in the mind and we don't realize that we're going down a downward spiral, and Allah will send us help. Allah will send us help because Allah is answering the prayers of our body before our mind catches up, right? Sometimes we make a dua for something that's great, right? We make a dua for something that's great, and Allah gives it to us in a way that we don't see. Allah gives us in the most delicate of ways because Allah doesn't need anything from us. You see, when sometimes when I go to a store, I'm getting my coffee, and I want to give the person a tip. A lot of times, sometimes I try not to do this, but sometimes I want them to see me tip them, so they know that I tipped them, so they know that I took care of them. They know that I hooked them up. They know that next time I come, maybe they'll remember me, right? Or I'll make them happy and make their day, right? See, Allah is subtle. Allah doesn't need credit. Allah doesn't care if you know or you don't know who gives you what, right? But because Allah doesn't care, it's important that Allah guides us, right? Because Allah doesn't care, He's not going to treat us better if we do more namaz, right? Allah's going to treat us fairly and justly the way we deserve, right? That doesn't diminish the importance of dua. See, dua is an added benefit to the world, an added benefit to those who understand what dua is. And that's why it's important to have the knowledge of what dua is and how to ask for dua, right? And so, that is the justice of Allah, is Allah will help you in ways, even if you don't see it, because Allah's justice is beyond what we think is just. See, if I were running the world, if I were deciding who gets what, nobody would want to live there, I wouldn't do it purposely, right? I might do it purposely to some people, you know what I mean? But no, I wouldn't do that. Inshallah, Allah, I talked yesterday about how Shaitan told Hazrat Musa that there's three times that a woman is easy to corrupt, right? Easy to make sin when they're angry, when they're bearing witness over other people, over somebody else, and when a non-married man and woman are alone, right? And so, in light of that second thing, think about that. Think about how the world would look if you were the one deciding everything. First of all, we wouldn't have the capacity to decide everything because all the things that Allah makes happen, we don't understand even a fraction of it, right? Second thing is Allah doesn't get tired, right? Allah doesn't get tired, so Allah can keep making everything happen without a flinch. There's no slowing down of anything, right? And the thirdly is Allah is the most merciful, the most loving, the most just. So whatever happens is just, right? You may think that you may think you're going to school for one thing, right? You may think that, I want to be a journalist, so I'm going to go to school of journalism, right? And you come out of school, and the first year you go to a Majlis of Imam Hussain and you hear somebody recite a Noha. It inspires you to write a Noha, and you end up becoming a person who writes Nohas. And 50 years later, generations later, people are reciting your Nohas to get nearness to the Imam. See, it turns out that degree in journalism that you were seeking, that was going to help you be a journalist, right? Allah actually knew what was better for you was to become a poet, right? Hazrat Abbas's kids were poets. Hazrat Abbas's grandchildren, they were poets and scholars. You see, that is a highly enlightened, a highly respected thing to be in Islam, is a poet, right? And now I'm not talking about go and start rapping about about parties you go to and this and that, right? That's a different kind of poetry, right? I'm talking about use your poetry to inspire people. Use your poetry to bring people closer to Allah, to open their eyes about the Allah, but to create love for Imam Hussein. And when you use your words and your talents to do these things, your talents are unlimited. Your talents are unlimited. We've talked about the importance of poetry yesterday, right? What was his name? Kain ibn Qais ibn Zayn. Huh? Zubair ibn Kain, thank you. Zubair ibn Kain, when he went to the battlefield, what was he saying? I'm Zubair ibn Kain. I'm defending the family of Hussein, right? This is a poetry. Everybody who went on the battlefield recited poetry, right? When Imam Hussein went to pick up the body of his beloved friend, his childhood friend, Habib ibn Mazari, recited poetry, right? Poetry is very important in Islam, right? It's a very important tradition. No matter where you're from, right? You're from Iran, you're from Iraq, you're from America. Poetry is important to listen to appreciate, and to try to create for the love of Allah and the love for your Imam. It's not wajib, but these are the things that make your heart softer, make your heart more vulnerable to the life and the struggles of the Imamat, right? And the power of the Imamat, right? It opens your heart up, right? Write poems about your Imam, how much you miss them. I know people write poems about love, and people write poems that they want to give to their girl. Why don't you write a poem and send it to your Imam? See how your life changes. Actually, I'll tell you guys a really quick story. I had a friend of mine stop by today, and he's a Mexican dude, really cool guy. And he's Catholic, like really devout Catholic, right? And he, one year actually, he helped us set up the al-Asr Masjid when we were still at Shahnawaz. He was hanging out, and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And so we're setting up for these programs. He's like, "Oh, I'll help you." Like, Mehed met him, he set up the whole thing. Did more work than Mehed, which is actually isn't hard to do, but he did it regardless, right? And so, he helped us set up. And so he came over today. He was on his way home, and he just came over to say what's up, and we're talking, right? And he's like, "What have you been up to?" And so I told him, and I said, "Actually, look, I'm going to tell you something." I said, the world is corrupt, right? He's like, "Yeah, people are under stress, right?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "See, you and me are the same. You're waiting for the Messiah, right?" So yeah, absolutely. I said, listen, the teachings of Islam tell us, make it certain that the Messiah, he's alive, and his mom is the descendant of Jesus, of Hazrat Isa, and his dad is the descendant of no other Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I said, look, I'm telling you this because you're searching for him. He's already here, right? And his job, right? If he's my king, he's your king, right? And if his job is to help me, his job is to help you too. And so I'm telling you this because if he's alive and you call to him, he's going to come to you, right? He's like, yeah. I said, if he's not alive and you call to him, nothing's going to happen, right? Right? And I said, so call to him. I said, on your way home, just sit there and try to have a conversation with him and say, my king, my savior, where are you? My friend says you're alive. And if you're alive, I want to understand how I could develop a relationship with you. And so I told him this, right? And then I told him, I said, listen, I want you to do that. And then if you want to know more about him, then come and find me. Is everything okay? I said, I'm not going to preach to you because you're not coming over for that. But if reaching out to your savior and your king changes your life when you're lonely, when you're stressed, when you're, whatever, when you're pressed for time, right? Then what you should do is call to him. And if you start seeing the change in your life and you start seeing him come and answer you and you want to know more, I'll tell you all about him, right? And he told me, he said, that's really deep stuff. And I said, look, that is why, that is what friendship does, right? That is what friendship does. And that is why what we're doing in this, during these 10 days, what we've been doing is we've been searching to establish that bond with Imamat, right? We want to establish that bond with Imamat because that's what Imam Hussein's message was, right? Imam Hussein's message wasn't, I'm the king. Imam Hussein's message was, we are never going to submit to an unworthy king. And as we know, we had, we studied hadith the other day that says that Allah decides the ruler, that, Allah decides the ruler, and that Allah makes it easy for us to follow the right path, right? And that the Imam is our guidance to, the benefits of this world and in the hereafter, right? And so we've been looking at the importance of Imamat, right? We've been looking at what other people have been saying about Imamat, what Bibi Fatima said about Imamat, what Hazrat Ali said about Imamat, right? We've been checking all of this out. And so today, I figure we could go down the line and we can talk about different aspects of Imamah. Right now, one thing that we talked about the other day. Let me see if I can find that quote. It said that when Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajil farjum. It said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Okay, it said the gentleness speaks of their knowledge and their silence of the wisdom of their speech. Right, their gentleness speaks of their knowledge and their silence of the wisdom of their speech. Right, so basically, what that means is what we discussed that to mean. Right, was that when Imam says something and their action when they're conducting themselves in silence, it reinforces what they said in their speech, right? So if you see them act a certain way, right, and then they talk about what they did, their actions will be validated by their speech. Or if you hear them say something and you see them conduct themselves in a certain way, their actions will again validate what they said in their speech, right? So their silence is a testament to the truth of their speech, right? And one person who this was very true of is Imam Musa Kazim. See, as we know, Imam Musa Kazim, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajafar. He lived a really hard life. He was in prison for most of his life, wrongfully imprisoned. Why? Because the Khalifa at the time he was jealous of Imam Musa Kazim's nearness to Prophet Muhammad. He was also a descendant of Prophet Muhammad, right? But he was not near to Prophet Muhammad like Imam Musa Kazim was, not just in lineage, but in his actions, in his knowledge, in his akhlaq, right? And so he was in prison. Now, when Imam Musa Kazim was in prison, do you have that first quote? Someone? Imam Musa Kazim, he was put into prison for many years, spent most of his life in prison, right? And when he was first brought to prison, right? When he was first taken out of his house, right? Taken across the nation, taken to the dungeon, and put in the dungeon, he had a quote, right? And I'm going to read what the quote said, right? And it's going to get pulled up right now. His quote said, "Oh God, you know that I have been asking you to spare me time to devote myself to your purpose. You have done that. Praise be to you." This is a man who just got taken to jail, right? A man who just got unjustly taken to jail, right? Right when he entered the prison, right? What did he say? "Oh God, you know that I've been asking you to spare me time to devote myself to your service. You have done that. Praise be to you." We ask Allah, please give us more time to do your worship, right? You ask that, right? Now, what if you ask that and you end up going to jail? When you're on a trip somewhere, you don't know what's going on, right? You end up in jail. Are we going to think that, oh, yeah, Allah, I prayed to you, right? This is a man who meant what he said when he prayed, right? Brother Dusa, why don't you start by telling me a little bit about what you think, what that quote means to you, or what it makes you think when you hear that?
So this quote, it just really made me think that us as humans, we're not infallibles, obviously. Us as humans, we're a lot more pessimistic and we think so negatively of situations. And if you see the 12 Imams, the Prophet Muhammad, they all went through so many hardships, but you never ever saw them complain. They always appreciated every single thing that happened. They praised Allah,
See,
from the beginning. Yeah,
it's like they're infallible. They realize that everything that happened was a perfection of Allah, right?
exactly.
And you look at Imam, you look at something like this. Something like this says, yesterday we talked about how Imam Hussein did namaz khawf, right? He has to do namaz. He has told Shimmer to stop attacking during namaz. About this quote in regards to namaz, what does that tell you? They're guided. Telling Suluddin, Fruddin, here's how you live your life, right? We saw how Imam Hussein lived his life in the final moments, and now related to this quote, what do you think about that?
The importance of namaz is even in a situation that Imam Hussein was facing his Qafila, the value and importance of namaz was his top priority as soon as it hit. The way I see it is we pray 5 times a day. Is we don't pray because Allah needs our prayers. We pray because it makes Allah happy, it pleases Allah. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's how I related to it.
And you know, Mom said talked about namaz this whole time. Talked about prayer this whole time, and then they go to Kabbalah and he's not gonna. And the responsibility, what he's hoping we're going to get from this quote.
You know, one thing that so there was a hadith that I learned that when I was a kid that really stuck with me, and it kind of relates to this, that like if anything is going wrong in your life, look at how you are praying. Like for example, if you start falling into sin, say for example, look at like you're listening to music again and you like made a vow not to listen to music, or you've been missing fast during Ramadan, like look at the way you are praying, because if your prayers aren't being accepted, then you are more prone to fall into sin. And so like over here, the Imam is telling us that like, you know, giving yourself the time to, and devoting yourself to the service of Allah, as in with prayer, is going to be like the best time you can spend on this earth. And it's the best way you can safeguard yourself against falling into sin in your day-to-day life when you're not necessarily like devoting yourself to Allah, you know?
MashaAllah.
Muhammad salawat.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and you know that's the important thing is we need to understand when Allah grants your prayers, He's going to grant them the best way for you. You don't know what the best thing for you is, but Allah does. You see, you might ask for, you might ask for $1 million on the day when you sign a business contract, right? And that business might fail because your $1 million might be doing something else that makes you more happy, right? And at that time, you're so excited about this business that you're getting into, you don't realize the stress is going to cause, right? But the next venture is what Allah's thinking about. So as soon as you make that dua, you lose you lose something that you think you value, right? You lose an opportunity that you were waiting for. Yet Allah's going to send you down the path, give you the best of what you asked for, right? And that's why it's important for us to purify our intentions, right? Purify our intentions, and when we do our actions, everything you do, right? When you go to the store, right? You want to purify your actions, right? Like I'm just going to get groceries. No, I'm going to take care of my family that you gave me, Allah. As my responsibility, right? You know, when that's your intention, the best things are going to come from that. When you go decide what your career is going to be, when you decide, you know, what you're going to do in your free time, if your intention is to do something good, and your intention when you make the dua is to do something great, then the dua is, not only going to get, fulfilled, but in the best way possible, right? So, you know, Imam Musa Kazim spent a lot of his time in prison, right? Very tragic. It's a very tragic life, but he was a very, very pious man. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he was a pious man. He was the Imam, right? And so, Imam Ali al-Naqi, he as well was a very pious man, right? And he was a man. So when he was living in Medina for a little while, he was removed from Medina, forced to live in Samarra, right? And when he was living in Samarra, the Khalifa Harun had put him up at his one of his governor's house, right? And he was imprisoned there. And the governor knew that Harun was going to expect him to kill the Imam, right? The Imam knew that too, right? So what the Imam did is he never said anything to him about his actions. All the Imam did was pray. He prayed and he prayed, and he would supplicate out loud. He would supplicate out loud, and the guy's name was Isa. He would watch him, right? He would watch him do his namaz in the morning, right? And then he'd go into sajda. And an hour later, he would come up from sajda and he'd start praying again. And Isa said that he knew that he was not asleep in sajda. He knew he was praying because he didn't have to do wuzu again. You see what I'm saying? So he did that. And this happened for a certain amount of time, right? And it happened for a certain amount of time. And Harun was looking for a reason to kill the imam, looking for a reason. So he kept asking his friend, he's like, hey, did he say anything against me? Is he trying to revolt? So no, all he's doing is praying. All he's doing is praying. One day, the imam talked to Isa. He said, listen, Harun's going to ask you to kill me. Make the right choice. No, the choice is yours. Make the right choice, right? And at the end of the day, isn't the example of imamate that they made the right choice? Didn't Hazrat Umar make the right choice? You see, didn't Qais ibn Zubair ibn Kain make the right choice? I did Musab yesterday, the name is slipping me today. Zubair ibn Kain, he made the right choice. They had another choice that they'd made, but they made the right choice at the end. And all the imam did is pray, right? I said, when you're in the presence of the imam, the goodness of the imam, it saturates you and it touches you, right? And that's what he did. He didn't sit there and, hey, you kill me if this, he didn't do that. All he did is he let him see how the imam's living his life in captivity, and not even feeding the poor and helping the orphans and doing all the great things that Hazrat Ali did and Imam Hassan did, right? He was just in captivity, and while in captivity, he inspired his captor, right? And so Harun decided one day, I'm going to come and see what's going on. I want to see for myself. And he walked in and he waited and he waited and he waited. And he said, hey, where's the imam? And what's this garment? What's this shirt doing on the floor over here? So that's not a shirt. That's the imam. He's been prostrating. He's been in sajda this entire time. He's doing his namaz and he wouldn't move. He was in such peaceful meditation, right? That he was doing sajda. He was doing sajda, right? And then, Harun left. He left, right? The imam, was in sajda the whole time, right? And then he sent one of his soldiers. He said, go to him and search him, and you'll see that he has weapons that he's going to use against me. He's amassing an army, right? So they went and they searched everything, right? They went in his house and they searched, and all they saw was the imam praying. The imam was praying and praying and praying, and the soldiers went back. They said, he has no weapons, and I don't know what you're talking about, right? It's like those WMDs that Bush is looking for. They never found them, right? And so he went and told Harun, so he doesn't have any weapons. All he was doing is praying. He's not saying anything violent. He's not saying anything against you. He's just praying to God, praying for everyone, really. You know what I mean? And, I don't know why you want to kill him. And so he said, call him to me, right? So then they called him on and they took him into the Khalifa. And you know what the Khalifa was doing, right? Yes. Drinking. He was drinking. See, someone nailed it, right? Khalifa was drinking. And the imam came in his presence. Imam came in his presence and he poured alcohol and he passed it to him and said, hey, here. And the imam said to him, right? He didn't say, no, that's wrong. No, you're going to go to hell. No, that's going to kabira. No, that's najis. He said, that substance is never mixed with my blood, so I'm going to have to refrain. You see the eloquence? You see, he knew that the Khalifa is not calling him there to learn about Islam. Khalifa is calling him there for another purpose, right? So instead of getting on his high horse, now you see, we see other people doing something and everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't, right? But look at the eloquence. He said, no, I'm not going to have it. It's never touched my skin, never mixed with my blood. I'm not going to have any, right? So then the Khalifa, he looked at him, said, okay, then what are you going to do for me? Excuse me? So recite to me some poetry. Recite to me some poetry. And the Imam said, I haven't recited poetry in years. I don't really read, nor do I recite much poetry. He's like, but I'll tell you what, I'll read you, I'll recite some poetry for you, right? And then the Imam read this following poem. It's kind of lengthy. We'll discuss a little bit of it, right? He literally freestyled this poem, right? And he started talking to the Khalifa. And he said, they stayed on the beds of mountains well guarded by the overpowering ones among men. Yet these beds did not save them. They brought down after glory from their fortresses, and they were deposited into holes. What terrible places to stay. A screaming caller yelled out to them after they were buried. Where are the beds, the crowns, and the wardrobes? Where are the faces that used to be pampered? Before them, veils and wreaths were drawn down. The grave then spoke out on their behalf as a screaming caller and asked them, those faces are what the worms fight over now. So long did they eat for a time, and for so long did they drink. But after having eaten so long, they are now being eaten. And for so long, they built houses to guard them, but they departed those houses, the families, and moved on. But they departed the houses, the families, and moved on. And for so long, they treasured wealth and saved it, but they left it behind for their enemies and traveled on. Their homes have been neglected, wasteland, as the original inhabitants have gone to the graves, right? See, the Imam, he didn't go and start trolling the Khalifa and saying, here's a poem about how you're unjust. He started talking about life and death. He started talking about life and death in such an eloquent manner that, you know what, the Khalifa did, he started to cry. He started to cry and he dismissed the Imam, right? He said, okay, you can go, right? This is the poem that he told him, right? That's our minute, right? Why don't you tell me? They stayed on the bed. They stayed on the bed of mountains while guarded, right? What do you think? What do you think that is?
Can you elaborate a little more?
Yeah. So this is talking about the luxury. He's talking about the way that the
Stand means to avoid something or delay something dangerous or bad.
is the sound coming. I think Shama's saying that the YouTube's not working. Is my audio not working? Is that the deal? Oh, from the head.
So what?
See, they elevated themselves, right? Their beds are elevated above the ground, right?
They think they're better than others.
They thought that luxury made them better than others. They valued the luxury, right? Yet these beds did not save them, right? Even though they were in these beds, what happened to them?
They're buried.
They're buried. You see, they had all the luxury that they, that they thought no one else had. Yet they ended up buried, right? They were deposited. Not just were they buried. It says they were deposited into holes. What a terrible place to say. Like this, you want to give it a? You want to tell something? What does that mean to you? It says they were deposited into holes. These people who laid on beds of mountains, right? They were deposited into holes. What a terrible place to stay. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because you're being below a surface that's like below where we are. And so like as Brother Asija had mentioned that like humans are infallible. I think that really resonated with me because by participating in whatever activities it may be, you can either be elevated above a certain level or by participating in something that may not be acceptable, you can be deposited into those holes. So that's kind of what I took out of that.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because this is the Imam speaks, there's such depth to what they're saying that it hits you on multiple levels, right? You're right. If you make a wrong choice, you're deposited into a hole that you dug yourself, right? And at the end of the day, you're also going to die, and you're also going to be put underground in a hole, right? Right, and you're going to be buried, right? So either you dig yourself in that hole, or at the end of your life, you're dug into that hole, right? And then what? And then what, right? It says that a caller yelled to them, right? So where are the beds, the crowns, and the wardrobes, right? What are those? Some of them. What's he asking about? What's a caller saying to them, right?
Where the bed.
You don't have your royal garments. You don't have your crowns. You don't have anything, right? Right. What do you think, brother Mohammad Raza?
Yeah, I mean,
I think what the Imam is really trying to say is that the tyrant king needs to humble himself, because as he tries to protect himself, tries to stay away, when he tries to stave the danger on these high places like mountains, and he tries to protect his wealth and hoard his wealth from others, he'll see that it'll come crumbling down, and when he dies, he's going to become the food of worms, who are then going to be eaten by other animals, and the cycle of Allah's life is going to continue. His legacy will not live on because he was wealthy. His legacy will live on if he does something with it, right? With something substantive in this world. And so that's what I gathered.
Yeah, that's perfect. Right there it said exactly what you said. That where are the faces? Where are those faces that worms fight over now? Your face is worm food, right? And everything you had, all your possessions are gone. Everything that you valued in this world is gone, right? And brother Mohammed Raza said something interesting. He said, "What's left is if you did something substantive in this world, right? Right now, Harun did something substantive in this world, right? He did. He killed the imam. He imprisoned the imam, and that's why we're talking about him now. You see, we're not talking about him, his wealth. We're not talking about. I didn't describe his palace to you. I didn't tell you what kind of liquor he was drinking. I didn't tell you what kind of clothes I don't even know any of that stuff, right? Right. But we're talking about him because of what he did. You see, you can do something great and be remembered, but you can do something awful and be remembered too. You see, and that is what was also interesting about the day of Ashura, right? The day of Ashura, right? We talked about how the first woman martyr in Karbala woke up a Christian, right? Hazrat Hur alayhi salam had not only denied Imam Hussein water, but he's kept water from Bibi Sakina, from Hazrat al-Asr, from all of the children in Karbala, right? It was a direct result of Hazrat Hur's actions, right? But he was forgiven and went to heaven, right? We talked about Zubair ibn Kain, who was the he was one of the people who was going to join the forces in Kufa against Imam Hussein. He didn't want to run into him until he was, next to other soldiers that would talk him into doing something wrong. But Imam Hussein saved him on the right path, right? So, goes on and on and on with all of these things, right? All these people that had decisions to make. Are you going to make the right decision, or what decision are you going to make, right? Imam Hussein, he had decisions to make on the day of Karbala too. He had a lot of decisions to make, right? He had decisions to make, right, when he let his friend Habib ibn Mazahir go and fight, right? He had a decision to make when he allowed the newly married Christian to join his camp, right? He had decision after decision to make, right? Hard decisions, right? We think we have a lot of decisions to make in our life. He had some very difficult decisions to make on the day of Ashura, right? And the decisions weren't getting easier, my friends. No, they were getting harder and harder and harder, right? Because you have a certain number of soldiers, you have a certain number of trained fighters, right? Muslim bin Asija, Hazrat Hur, Habib ibn Mazahir, right? Zubair ibn Kain, Sayyid ibn Sulaiman, right? All these warriors were there, ready to stand up for the Imam, right? And though, the Imam didn't want to see them go, they're warriors. They're trained. They can handle themselves. They've been in war before. They're able-bodied men. All these reasons to go and go and go, right? But what about when there were no men left? What about when all the soldiers had died? What about when all the soldiers' heads and arms and legs had been cut off? What about when Imam Hussein had carried all of the soldiers back to the camp, and now he looked around and what he saw were children? He saw children. He saw his young son, Hazrat Ali Akbar alayhi salam. He saw his young son, his nephew, right? Very, very important person in his life, because his nephew, Janabi Qasim, was the son of his beloved brother, Imam Hassan alayhi salam. They were so close in age, and they grew up in the same house. They were together for so many years. He loved his brother, and he loved his brother's son. The son was so young, right? What about the sons of Bibi Zainab, Ona Muhammad, right? Ona Muhammad. Bibi Zainab had gone to them the night before Ashura, and said to them, she said to them that I can't ask you to do jihad. You're not at the proper age to do jihad. We want to pin that. They're not at the proper age to do jihad, right? But a time is going to come when the children of Imam Hussein are going to be slain. And if the children of your Imam are slain, and if your Imam is slain, and if you're alive, I don't know if I'd be able to face myself. And they told her, they said, don't worry, Mom. Don't worry, Mom. We were taught to fight by Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. We know if we know what our Imam is, and we know how to defend him, and we will do that tomorrow, right? And so Ona Muhammad stood by Imam Hussein, and as he was looking, right, it's not that Imam Hussein wanted to send kids out. No, there were women, right? There were babies. There were there were older people that were about to get looted, about to get attacked, about to get killed, and so Imam Hussein needed to defend them. And as he looked around, and all the fighters, all the men were gone. All the people who he had grown up with were gone. All the people who had been sharpening their knives, all the people who had been by his side were gone. And now he sees his kids. He sees his kids. He sees Hazrat Ali Akbar, and Hazrat Ali Akbar had fallen, and he goes back. And now there's very few people left in the tent. Very few people left in the tent. Him and Hazrat Abbas, Imam Zain al-Abidin is so sick, he couldn't even lift his sword. He couldn't even lift his head. And so they see Ona Muhammad, and the owner Muhammad asked for permission to go and defend Imamat, right? Defending Imamat. And he denied them. He said, I cannot let you go. I cannot let you. You're so young. How could I live with myself? And Bibi Zainab told him, he said, let me ask you something, my brother. Do you remember the Battle of Siffin? Do you remember the Battle of Siffin when your brother Abbas had struck an enemy down that was about to kill you? Do you remember that when that happened? And Imam Hussein said, yes. He said, tell me how old your brother was. And he said, my brother was 8 years old. He said, tell me how proud your father was of him for defending Imamat on that day. Are you going to rob me of that pride and of that, of that opportunity to let my sons defend Imamat like that? Are you going to do that to your sister? And Imam Hussein said, I can't do that. I can't do that. And so he called the horse and he put both of the boys on one horse. Oh no, Muhammad, he put them on one horse and he sent them out onto the battlefield. They went out onto the battlefield and the enemy started coming at them and the boys were not scared. The boys were not scared. The boys fought with their sword, defending the camp of Bibi Zainab, defending the camp of Imam Zainul Abidin, defending the life of Imam Hussein. Then the boys fell off the horse. When they fell off the horse, they got up and they stood back to back. They stood back to back and they started fighting. They started fighting and killing the enemy, right? Okay, killing the enemy. They surrounded them in a circle and they would go, and anytime the enemy would come close, they would kill them. The enemy saw this as a young boy, so they were sending people out one by one. One by one, they were sending them. And then Ibn Ziyad said, who are these boys? Who are these boys? They look like, they fight like Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. Who are these boys? They said, they are the nephews of Abbas. They are the grandsons of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. And he said, don't attack them one by one. Are you crazy? These boys are gonna kill the entire army if we do that. So they started going at them 2-3 at a time. And the boys were, their skill was unmatched by anybody. They were trained by no other than the line of Qamar bin Hashim. Hazrat Abbas himself had taught them how to use a sword. Hazrat Abbas himself had taught them how to defend blows. And they were doing this, looking out for each other and fighting. And then Ibn Ziyad said, he said, until you separate the brothers, we'll not be able to defeat them. And so the army charged, and they charged between the brothers and separated them apart. They separated the brothers, and they went and attacked the brothers like a gang of thugs, right? One by one, they hit them, and the boys fell. And when they fell, these were cowards. You ever seen a coward fight? Once the person is on the floor, all the cowards jump in like jackals, like ravens, right? They were like dogs, like wild dogs, hitting and then stabbing the boys. And the boys didn't cry out. They didn't cry out because they didn't want their uncle to hear. They didn't want their mother to hear. But Hazrat Abbas was watching. And he could no longer see the boys. He called to Imam Hussein, and they ran out to see what the boys were, and they found them. They found them martyred. And it said that Bibi Zainab never cried for her sons, because every time she was going to cry, she dedicated her tears, and she only cried for Imam Hussein. But then after the women, the children were released from Damascus. After they were released from the prison, they made it back to Medina. Bibi Zainab made it home. Bibi Zainab made it to her house, and she went to her house. She went inside, she looked around her house, and she went into the room, and she saw 2 little beds made perfectly. The room was clean, and the 2 little beds were in the room, and she remembered her son, and she ran out of her house in Medina, and she ran to the Masjid al-Nabi. She went to Jannatul Baqi and fell on the grave of Prophet Muhammad, and she said, oh my grandfather, it's been so long since anybody has called me mom. Ya Allah, please send curses on the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah, please increase our nearness. To our Imam. Ya Allah, please help us look at the challenges and the things that happen in Karbala as inspiration in our regular lives, so we never complain about doing things that you love. So we love doing the things that you love, and when we delay them, when we don't do them to our fullest, we feel like we should do more. Ya Allah, please allow us to do more. Accept all of our ibadat, on our behalf, on behalf of our maroom, the entire mu'mineen, mu'minat, the community. Forgive all of our sins. Ya Allah, please put us in the presence of the Imam. Ya our Imam, we're talking to you now. Our Imam, we're searching for you now. Our Imam, we know you're amongst us, but we can't feel your presence. Ya Imam, we're sorry for whatever we did where you're separated from everyone, including us. Ya Allah, please make us the type of people that our Imam calls, just like Imam Hussein called Habib ibn Mazahir. Please make us the types of people that the Imam is going to call when he needs help. Ya Allah, please, if you're going to grant only one of our prayers tonight, let that be it. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Hussein, Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein.
Alvida, 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 alvida. Say goodbye,
say goodbye, say goodbye, say goodbye.
Dilbaran Jafar tayyar.
Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say
goodbye. Dilbaran Jafar tayyar.
say goodbye, say goodbye, alvida, alvida. For the grandchildren of Jafar tayyar. Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye.
ये बच्चों से कहती थी बार बार बिंदे अली ये बच्चों से कहती थी बार बार रंगों से दारो ओनो मोहम्मद ये मानसार ए दिलबरान जाफर तैयार
अलविदा अलविदा say goodbye say goodbye grandchildren of Jafar tayyar अलविदा अलविदा say goodbye Ali said this to her two sons. The daughter of Hazrat Ali said this to her two sons. Oh no Muhammad, you are the Satta, you're the ones. Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Oh, the grandchildren of Jafar tayyar. Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye.
जाफर के इफ्तिकार भरना जिहाद में
जाफर का इफ्तिखार भरना जिहाद में
नाना की अपनी शान दिखाना जिहाद में ए दिलबरान जाफर तैयार
Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Of the grandchildren of Jafar tayyar. Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. At you, Jafar tayyar's legend when you do jihad. At you, Jafar tayyar's legend when you do jihad. Show that you are the grandsons of the lion in jihad.
ए दिलबरान जाफर तैयार
Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Of the grandchildren of Jafar tayyar. Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. The grandsons of the Lion of God, you are lions too. The grandsons of the Lion of God, you are lions too. Now you to enter the battlefield, show what lions do.
ए दिलबरान जाफर तैयार
Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Oh, the grandchildren of Jafar tayyar. Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. You learn to fight from your uncle Abbas's watching crowd. You learn to fight from your uncle Abbas's watching crowd. Young thirsty boys on the burning sand surrounded by a crowd.
ए दिलबरान जाफर तैयार
Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Oh, the grandchildren of Jafar tayyar. Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye.
शेर खुदा की बेटी के तुम दोनों शेर हो
शेर खुदा की बेटी के तुम दोनों शेर हो
मैदान जाओ खुद फतह अब कुछ नहीं डर हो ए दिलबरान जाफर तैयार
Alvida, alvida. Oh no Muhammad, the two young lions riding on a horse. Their uncle Abbas proudly watched as they fought the war. On the burning sands of Karbala, the young cubs had no fear. Bravely defeated any soldier that dared to go near. The commander Ibn Ziyad said, separate the boys. If they stand together, we will never overcome their poise. The army stood between the brothers, the proud Saka of their mother, the daughter of Ali. Let's say goodbye to the two young princes who fought with bravery. Alwida, 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 alwida.
अलविदा 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 ए दिलबरान जाफर तैयार
Alvida, alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Oh, the grandchildren of Jafar tayyar. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. You may be young, but killing dogs is what the lions do. You may be young, but killing dogs is what the lions do. To kill the sons of babies, I know they separated you. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Let the children of Jafar at the yard. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. We stand up for our Imam, you two are my Sattah. We stand up for our Imam, you two are my Sattah. Oh, my two sons, they'll take your heads and they'll take my hijab. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. For the grandchildren of Jafar at the yard. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye.
बच्चों ज़ईफ़ मामू को ज़हमत न दीजियो
बच्चों ज़ईफ़ मामू को ज़हमत न दीजियो
काशे उठे भाई तो जुम्बिश ना कीजियो ए दिल बराने जाफर तैयार
Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. For the grandchildren of Jafar at the yard.
Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye.
Hussein is old, let's go fight for his cause. Your uncle Hussein is old, let's go fight for his cause. Your throats were dry and they died hungry in honor, let's happy ours. And Dil Baran and Jafar at the yard. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Children of Jafar at the yard. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. The children of Jafar at the yard. Alvida, Alvida, say goodbye, say goodbye. Alvida, Alvida, Alvida. Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Do I forage? I'm going to do I forage? Unmute from there.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ilahi azam al-bala wa barih al-khafa wa ankashaf al-ghita wa ankata al-raja wa zaqat al-ardu wa maniyat al-sama wa anta al-musta'anu wa ilayka al-mushtaka wa ilayka al-ma'awadu fi shiddati wa raha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa lil-amri al-lazina farasta alayna ta'atahum وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب يا محمد يا علي يا علي يا محمد اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 أسا 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 الأجل 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 يا أرحم الراحمين بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على
Zat Hazrat Abbas. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum ya Abul Fazl Abbas ibn Amir al-Mu'minin. Assalamu alaikum ya ibn Sayyid al-Wasiyan. Assalamu alaikum ayyuhal Abdul Salih al-Mutayyul lillahi wa rasulihi. Assalamu alaikum ya Azal al-Shuhada'i. Assalamu alaikum jamiyan wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alihi. Zat Imam Hussein al-Islam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum ya Abu Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Amir al-Mu'minin. Assalamu alaikum ya Fatima al-Zahra. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Zat Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida al-Islam. Assalamu alaikum ya Garib al-Gurba. Assalamu alaikum ya Ali ibn Musa al-Rida. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Zat Imam Mahdi al-Islam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum ya Sahibu al-Asr wa Zaman. Assalamu alaikum ya Imam al-Insi wal Jawan. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum ya Sharif al-Quran. Alaman, Alaman, Alaman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa sallam. Right here. Dua hujjat.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma waliyaka Hajratana al-Hasan sawatuka alayhi wa abai fi hadratisa wa fi tawasa wa hafiyah wa kazana naswan wa zamiyan wa hatta askan futuhi rabbu ahmadka ya
Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa sallam. Great job.
Please join us on tomorrow when we do the Mehndi for Janab Qasim. Friday when we have Janab Qasim, sorry, thank you. When we do the Mehndi for Janab Qasim, the son of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, then on Friday we will read the Majlis of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, do Hazri, and there's a Karbala poetry night at after. It'll start later after all of the programs end. And then on Monday is Ashura. Sunday morning, we're going to have a majlis at the Qabristan. Our Muharram will be there. They're waiting for somebody to come. Inshallah, people are doing it already, but if not, we're going to go and give them opportunity to be part of majlis. Sunday morning, 11 a.m. at the Laverne Cemetery. Monday, Ashura, the morning of Ashura, we'll have online azan, of Hazrat Ali Akbar, followed by at 10 a.m. Amals for the day of Ashura. 1:30 p.m. Starting at 1:30 p.m. we'll have our Julus program that will have Julus, Pursa of Imam Hussain, Zarat Ashura, followed by Faka Shikni, and then Sham al-Riba on Ashura on the night after Ashura. But please join us for all these programs. If you need information, please contact info@al-asrjamaat.org. And get in touch with us, and we will definitely help you out. Everyone's encouraged to participate. Send us a recording of you reading the door. Come here and recite it live, even better. And inshallah we can continue to include the community and keep growing in our in our dedication to the Imam. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa sallam.